There are 33.2 million small businesses in the United States. 33.2 million people who decided that working for someone else was not the ceiling they're willing to live under. But here is what most people will not tell you about that number. Only 30% of those businesses will still be operating after 10 years. And the number one reason they close is not the market. It is not the economy. It is not the competition. It is the absence of structure. Now, imagine someone who looked at it all and said, I'm not building one, I'm building several. 30% of self-employed people in this country are serial entrepreneurs. They have built more than one business. But very few of them can tell you how the structure behind that decision actually works. The legal separation, the financial discipline, the operational system, the organizational design, that makes running multiple businesses possible without any of them collapsing. That is the conversation we're having today.
Welcome to Build Your Own Podcast. All things business, structure, strategy, scale. I'm Tricia. I help entrepreneurs build structurally sound businesses designed to last. Through expert insight and real conversation, we bring you clarity, strategy, and system for growth. Let's build.
My guest today is the founder of Voltaire Luxe Co. Wedding and Events, the co-owner of SJV Express, and a certified Massachusetts Notary Public, and a public health professional leading community health initiatives across the greater Boston area. She has built across multiple industries, across business models, and across every challenges that comes with refusing to stop at one. She's not here to give you the perfect blueprint. She's here to give you a real one. This conversation is called Built Different, the architecture of a multi-business mind. And my guest is Stephanie Voltaire. Stephanie, welcome to the Build Your Own Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you. Welcome. I am very excited about this conversation. We decided to even entertain the idea of having someone that is multifaceted because I saw myself in you. Because I am known as the person that just keeps on building businesses. Oftentimes people are confused by me because I just do so many different things.
I can relate.
And yes. And that, to be honest, it really goes back to understanding the mind of someone that is creating multiple businesses. That's what came out to me. So we'll start from the beginning. Tell me about the moment you realized you were building a portfolio, not just a business.
Well, I didn't know I was building a portfolio. It came to me by surprise. So a couple of years ago, I attended a networking event and I met this woman and she was asking me about my entrepreneur endeavors. We're talking about the different things that I do. And she said, "Oh my God, you're a portfolio careerist." And
I did not even know that.
I know. I said, "Huh?" She was like, "Yes. You're a portfolio careerist, a person who runs different businesses, has different portfolios. That's your career. That's who you are." And so since then, I've been running with it. I've been calling myself a portfolio careerist. It was my name on Instagram for a little bit, and then I changed it. But yeah, that's when I realized that I was building a portfolio and that I'm a portfolio careerist.
That is very interesting because when I was getting ready for this episode, that's what came up to mind as a portfolio, because like you have so many different businesses that it's not just one thing that you're building. So that is right on time. And that leads to the next question. What is the tension that nobody talks about when you're running multiple businesses at the same time?
It's tough. It's tough. You're doing the same thing for multiple entities. You may have different teams, but the routine is pretty similar in the back end of running a business. Your mind is always working. Your mind is always working. But the positive of that is it's also a learning experience, right? You're learning a lot about business. You're learning a lot about building a business, the foundation. So once you do it for the first, it's easy when you start the next business and so forth and so on. So it's sort of like a muscle that you're building, that you're growing when you have multiple businesses, because you become sort of like a business expert.
Correct. That's good. And for someone that does not know what you do, I know that I have introduced you, and I want to pause here, and I would like you to tell someone who is Stephanie Voltaire and talk to us about your businesses.
I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been in business since 2016. But let me rewind to the foundation. I was born to parents who were entrepreneurs and were also, I guess, in the corporate world. So in Haiti, my mom was a teacher, but she also owned a store, and she had a school bus company. My father was also a teacher, and he had a factory in Lekai where he made pasta and juices and distributed that to grocery stores throughout Haiti. So being an entrepreneur, it's in my blood. I grew up with entrepreneurs. I watched my parents be entrepreneurs. And so it's just a part of me. So in 2016, I launched my very first business. It was Velour Designs, and it was a line of handbags. So I used my skill of learning how to sew from my mom, and I love bags. So then I launched this business. I kept it up till, I want to say 2021. And, you know, hindsight is 2020, but thinking back, I wish I still had it going on. But I closed that business back in 2021. In 2019, I started the two businesses that I run now, which is Voltaire Luxe Co Weddings and Events. And we are an event company doing social corporate events, planning and design. And then I am co-owner of SJV Express, which is a transportation company where we transport students to and from school. And I have a sister company of Voltaire Luxe Co Weddings and Events, which is Lumiere Candles by SM. And it's a candle rental and staging company for weddings and other types of events.
This is beautiful. I will go back to the roots of having entrepreneurship in your blood later on. But I would like to transition into the different pillars. So if you're not familiar with Build Your Own, we have built a framework around how we see businesses. Okay. So we looked at business into the 5 different pillars. I looked at them illegally, financially, organizationally, operationally, and then strategically. So I do not advise get into an advisory role as a strategic person until I have looked at the different pillars into your business. And you have just named a couple of businesses that you have started. So how do you legally protect each of your businesses from the others?
Each of our businesses are LLCs. You know, one of them we do file as an S Corp, but all of them are LLCs, so limited liability company. Thank you. And so everything is protected in its own. Every business has their own liability insurance, which is a whole story of itself. But yeah, so every business is its own entity.
Talk to me about the liability insurance. I would like to know more about it. As someone that is, I feel like as entrepreneurs, we get into it. That's why I think that's part of the legal aspect. liability insurance. How do you start about this process if someone that is a new entrepreneur or a 10-year entrepreneur that does not know about it?
Yeah. So I think it depends what type of business you have. If you have business where there you can be a liability to a space or a person, you definitely need to have liability insurance because it covers you. So for example, for my event business, I have liability insurance. So that means if I go to a venue and I scratch their floor or we break something, we're covered. Right. If there's an issue with the client, we're covered, right? So this liability protection is sort of like your car insurance, right? It protects your business from any damages that you may cause.
That is very important for someone to understand the risk, because I will give some of the data. Operating multiple businesses under a single entity exposes every venture to shared liability, what we're currently talking about. If one business is sued, all businesses are at risk because you're piercing the corporate veil. Because if there's any crack, they will be able to find it. Separate legal entity are the structural firewall. Most founders who run multiple ventures learned this after they needed it, not before.
Yeah.
So you're talking to us today about how you legally protect your businesses, you separate those entities, but you also make sure that in the liability end, you are covered. So in that next phase, how does your contract process look like across your different businesses?
Yeah, so it looks different, right? Because we have different clienteles for each business. Our target audience is different. We're providing different services. So it definitely looks different. So for the wedding and event business, our contract is between us and the clients that we're servicing. While the transportation looks different, right? We have a contract with whether it's a school or a district or a daycare, etc. It's more external facing as opposed to the event business is more internal facing, if that makes sense.
Right. So do you go to an attorney to do that? Or like, what lesson have you learned about when you decide whether or not to use an attorney, and what consequences, if you experience one, occur to you? Yeah,
that's a great question. So my for the wedding and events business, I did have an attorney do my foundation contract. And so I switch it up based on the service that's being provided in the client, but the basic and the foundation of the contract remains the same. Additionally, I hired a lawyer. This was years ago, but now in the days of AI, there's a AI platform called Spellbook, and it helps you put together your contracts, right? You do have to pay for it. They have a trial, and you do have to pay for it after the trial, but you input all of your business information, what you want the contract to be for, who's the clientele, and they draft up your contract for you. And it's a legal contract that they put together for you.
That is amazing. If you heard it, you can pause here and I will put that on the screen so you can go today and take action and draft your contracts for your business. So we're moving into the financial foundation. So there's probably a lot to unpack here. What financial lesson did running multiple businesses teach you that a single business owner would never encounter?
Yeah, this is big because I learned a lot from that in the financial aspect. So one of the main lessons that I learned is that sometimes when you're running multiple businesses, the financial health of the businesses may look different, right? One may be doing better than the other financially. But once you have multiple businesses, you can leverage the financial health of one business to help support and grow another business. So what do I mean by that? You can offer a loan to one business from one business to help grow the other business. There are some things that you may need to do with your business. So let's just use a vague example. with SJV Express, I need vehicles, right? If the financial health of SJV Express is not well, it's not in a good place, I can use the business credit of Voltaire Luxe Co Weddings and Events to purchase that vehicle for SJV Express. Now, the bank, they don't need to know that it's for SJV Express, right? Mm-hmm. But SJV Express is the one paying the car loan, right? But the car was bought with the credit and financial health of Voltaire Luxe Co. So when you have multiple businesses, it can really help you support the others that you have.
I love this conversation. Yeah. So we will unpack a lot in here. Having the understanding that when you have multiple businesses, it's like you're creating new life. Mm-hmm. So I would like everyone to understand, you have a new opportunity to reinvent yourself each business that you create.
Yes.
What do I mean by that? Because every single business is created like an entity. It looks like it's like you're a person. You create, let's say, SJV 2.0. So now it has its own portfolio. It has its own debt. It has its own asset. And then it also has its own business credit.
Yes.
So you can have a multiple business credit. And I have been a beneficiary of that, having to recreate a new LLC, a new business. And then I leverage that to be able to purchase certain things. Exactly. But there's a caveat to that. You need to understand, and you said something, you borrow from your other business, not depleting the financial health of that business. So there's a structure when you're going to make a loan to that business. You're not just going to Zelle it. Yeah. So no, I just would like to Zelle that money. Let's say you have $50,000 in SJV's account, and then you have a client for your wedding and event business, and the contract they're not paying, but you have vendors that you need to pay. So you add an intersect where you need to make a decision. I need the money. However, I have another business that has the cash flow, but how do I do that? You can absolutely do it, but it's the way that you structure it.
Absolutely.
You have to have a formal loan of that business, borrowing to that other business, so SJV can list that as a liability.
Exactly.
Versus that it's like an asset, and then it's just on paper. You have to be able to trace it in your book.
And if you want to be smart about it, loan the other company the funds with interest.
Exactly.
I mean, it's your businesses. You're winning on both ends.
On both ends. And tax deductible for those businesses, and interest. Absolutely. You know that you're going to be able to recuperate because you are able to write off those interest that you pay. Yep. Any credit card that that you have, those charges, you can recuperate them at the end of the year. So if for your business, I will stop here and say also add another data. 82% of small businesses that fail do so because of cash flow problem. For a portfolio founder, the cash flow complexity multiplies with every entity. Revenue cycle rarely aligns, and a shortfall in one business can drain the other. And if the finances are not clearly separated, then it gets into another issue. So that leads us to our next question. How do you keep the finances of each business from bleeding into the other?
Every business has their own bank account.
Right.
They have their own credit cards. We don't mix unless, again, if we do a loan agreement. And also I have, and this is new, right? And I know we'll get to this a little bit later when we talk about structure, but now I have a bookkeeper. I was doing everything on my own. And as the businesses are growing, you can't do everything on your own.
No.
So now I have a bookkeeper. He does my bookkeeping for all of my businesses. But this helps you to see the cash flow of the business, the financial health of the business, what's coming in, what's going out. If you need to make some changes, very important, because a lot of us are operating just doing, but not looking on the back end to see how we're doing financially. I always say this to folks. If you're not making money in business, why are you in business?
That's it.
Or it's a hobby.
It's an expensive hobby. We had a guest on here. That's what she said. If you are operating a business, you don't know your numbers, you don't know what's happening, it's a very expensive hobby.
Yeah.
And I'm a very big proponent of knowing your numbers, understanding your numbers, because I once was the person that hid from the numbers. And then it scared me. If I know I didn't have money in a bank account, I'm not opening that bank account until I know there's a deposit into that bank account.
Yes.
If I know it's negative, I have palpitation. I will not open it. And I've learned that this is not something that it's not a smart financial decision. Because one thing, when your company is not doing the health of the business, when it's not doing well, you need to get into a space where you go into the numbers and understand why it's not working. You cannot hide it, because what you hide, it will amplify and come back into the most unexpected circumstances.
Exactly. I used to be just like you, just not checking the bank accounts. I used to go months not checking the accounts, and I'm just swiping and purchasing stuff, and invoices are being paid, and I'm paying my team, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's left. I don't know what's coming out. And so that's why I hired a bookkeeper. And this is recent, right? So you could be in business for years, and then as you're growing, you're putting things in place. So I recently hired my bookkeeper, so now I can really see the numbers, see how we're doing, what do we need to stop doing financially, so that the business can grow in that aspect.
That's good. Well, congratulations. You have taken the step of structuring your business right way and laying the foundation. So when I work with my clients, I let them know you need to hire a bookkeeper. Yes. You have to hire a bookkeeper. You need to have an accountant. You don't know everything. Yep. Hire for what you don't know, because later on you will reap the fruit of their knowledge. Because for certain industry, you absolutely have no choice. Yeah. I spoke with a restaurateur. She said the first thing she had to do is hire a bookkeeper. That's the first thing. So it depends on the industry. Sometimes it may take you time, like for yourself, but you're in the process. Like what I said before, you're not here to give the blueprint. You're here to really tell the story, a real one, of like how you've been able to navigate all of those different worlds and take those lessons and then get better.
Can I add, when you're getting small business loans, or even applying for business programs, they want to see your finances.
Correct.
Right? They want to see your P&L. They want to see your balance sheet. And if you don't have that, how are you going to show them so that you can get these loans? Because if you're trying to grow your business, 9 times out of 10, you are going to need to get an external loan from a bank, or apply for a grant, whatever it may be. And it's required that you provide those documentations.
It is required. About 2.4 venture capitalists are funded to Black women, Black owners. So that means that there's a gap in the funding field. So a lot of small businesses are suffering because about 82% of them suffer because they close because their cash flow is not there. Another way to find a solution to your cash flow is to be able to get some funding. So it starts with having the financial structural readiness for you to understand what is your P&L. Do you have a balance sheet? Do you know your numbers? Do you have a business plan? Do you know do you have a financial projection analysis that is going to tell you about where is your business at, where you're taking your business, and how do you plan on taking your business there? And the numbers need to add up and not just tell the story. So one thing I tell entrepreneurs, you have to lead with the data. And I am a Christian entrepreneur. And oftentimes it goes backward for some entrepreneurs, because the Lord tells you to do something, you don't see the funding, and then you're just going by faith. What has been my journey, but I understand that it's not everyone's journey. So I try to find a balance to know, okay, this is where I know the foundation needs to start, but this is where I am, and how do I fill that gap? By filling that gap, this is where I start with these documents, because if I go to the city hall, when I went, I believe 1 year ago, they said, bring your business plan. They closed that door. They said, you are going to present that business plan to me. So let's say that you went to, we are in an artificial intelligence world right now. Yes, you're in AI, which is perfectly fine. Like when you go in and build that business plan, know what you put in there. Know if the story is going to line up. Because if you have to present on the spot, you have to be able to do so.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that day, had I not known what was in that document, I would have been in a very peculiar situation where it would have tarnished the image of my business because I just don't know what I'm talking about. And that is good because you're building across different businesses. You are in transportation, which is completely different from wedding planning. And I did mention that first, like you did also have a notary. So it goes all, it's different things that you have to have that separation financially. If not, it's not going to work. So congratulations on getting the bookkeeper. So now we're going to move on to the operational foundation section.
Ooh.
Right. What systems make it possible for multiple businesses to run without losing control of any of them?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm still working on that, right? It's a learning process as we go. But again, because my businesses are so different, they're in different industries. They have different operational structures. So for my transportation business, I have a road manager, I have drivers, I have monitors, I have mechanics. So I have different folks, different teams, but things in place to help the daily operations roll. One of the big aspects of the transportation business that really helps the daily operation is this app that we use. And the app helps with attendance. It helps with the drivers logging in the morning, logging in when they're done with their route, doing their inspection. So that helps that part of it. For the wedding and events, that one looks a little different. I feel like the transportation can run without me on any given day, but the wedding and events, not so much. I'm still is the backbone of the daily operations of that, but I do have a team. One of my friends serves as my wedding coordinator. And so on wedding day, I am not running around, with the bride and groom solving issues. She's doing that. I think understanding your strengths. I knew that was not a strength of mine, so I passed it on to her. Also makes it easier.
I want to go back to the transportation.
Yes.
You said you have an app. And I want you to tell us if you're open to it to help another entrepreneur that is starting, because I know a lot of different entrepreneurs that are starting their transportation business. That could be very helpful to them. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So Student Transport Hub, STH, it's an app and it streamlines pretty much your entire student transportation business. It manages your drivers, your vehicle, attendants. It can do your invoices. So it's just a very comprehensive suite, I would say, that helps you to manage your daily operations of your student business. So if you're interested, go to www.studenttransporthub.com. And if you're interested in being part of the Student Transport Hub, getting it for your business, you can email me at marketing@studenttransporthub.com. So it's STUDENTTRANSPORTHUB.com.
That's great. Well, thank you for even allowing us to know like the inner details, because I feel like as entrepreneurs, when we're listening to those type of conversation, we're looking for practical tips. So we're still in the financial space, and I want to dive a little bit deeper back to the legal, because I feel like that is the intersect of legal and financial for you, for that the structure of that business. How do you find those contracts as someone that is starting this transportation business? Where do they go from there? And let me know.
Yeah, I will say things have changed a lot. So I started in 2019 and it's completely different now, but it really, it does help having friends and colleagues in the business because, you share things with each other, which is how I was able to get some of the contracts that I have, which is like my peers in the business who share them with me. But in addition to that is really searching for RFPs online, which is called request for proposal. And I learned that through my public health career. But in a nutshell, it's a request that a city, a state, a daycare, whoever is putting out for proposals for transportation. So it's easy Google. You can find it online and find requests for proposals. And it's pretty much your application. That request for proposal RFP will list what they're looking for, eligibility, financials, etc. Everything that you need to have, plus what you need to submit, plus the application for RFPs.
So does that only goes into transportation or every other field?
Any other field. Photographers, videographers, cleaning companies, chefs, anything.
So you hear it, RFP, right?
Yes.
You are going to make sure to type that on Google and find the information so you too can start getting those contracts, because there are resources out there. There are opportunities out there, but you have to know the right door to knock.
Exactly.
So thank you so much. We are enjoying this conversation. And I want to transition now to organizational foundation. And you talk a little bit about this. How wrong team composition, I'll start with that data. Wrong team composition and organizational failures account for 23% of business collapse. For a portfolio founder, accountability does not just live within one team. Mm-hmm. It has to be designed intentionally across entities, or it's default to the founder absorbing everything. So, how do you structure accountability across your businesses so each runs without depending entirely on you?
Well, I think I mentioned this before. The transportation company can run without me, right? We have drivers in place. We have our road manager. We have the app that helps us with daily operations. So there's a system in place for that company. I will say for the event company, it does look a little different. It needs me based on the service that we're providing. However, we do have a team. As I mentioned, one of my longtime friends serve as my wedding coordinator, and I can close my eyes and I know, like, I can trust her to do wedding coordination. And there has been times she's done weddings without me, right? But I will say that we are looking to grow and expand and add lead planners, associate planners, and more coordinators to the team. And so, I don't know, I'm a little scared about that because you're inviting new individuals that you may not know, right? They have the skill and you may not know them personally. And that can be a little nerve-wracking. But that's the part about entrepreneurship, right? You have to let go of the fear. And when you hire folks, you have to let them do their job and allow them to really show you the skill and the knowledge that they have. So I feel like my transportation business, operationally, it's strong. The event business, not so much, but we're working towards that.
And that's okay because that's your real story. And as a multi-business owner, portfolio founder, you get to be in that unique intersect to learn from one business mistake to not also repeat it. So the first business that you created versus the last business that you just created is structurally is two different things. It's two different beasts because you have learned a lesson. Now you have applied it. And it's okay for the event because now you know where you are and then what you need to add. And also what I tell a lot of people, when you start micromanaging, that's when the system is not working for you. So as a new founder or you are a tenure business owner, you need to start thinking and operating in a space where you start documenting your process. This is where my pharmaceutical background comes in because I was in quality. And nothing in a quality system, if you're going to, because we're making medication, we're making something, and we're making different medical devices, you have to have a work instruction.
Yeah.
You have to have a hierarchy of documents. You have to have standard of operating procedures.
Yep.
And you have to have a quality manual. You have to have those, and then it goes even higher until you have a policy. So you start from your policy, which is like the architecture of like the whole organization, whichever area you're in. And then it trickles down to the manual, that's the second layer.
Yeah.
And it goes even deeper now into your SOP. So now you're looking into those departments. So what do? Begin to document those steps as you're doing it. So someone else can come in and you say, this is what I do. So one of the tips I can stop and tell an entrepreneur here that is building a business. If you use AI, I talk about that a lot because nowadays you need to go with the time and not go against it and be like, I am not going to use the technology if it's going to help you. What I do, everything now that I do in my business, I document it and I say, turn this into a standard of operating procedure. So at the end, I'm building a roster. Yes. So when I'm ready to hire somebody, I can easily create a job description because it's there. I can train somebody because it's there. And I also have work instruction. I am a visual person. I do not like to read as much as you guys think so. I am not a reader because I like to listen. Yep. I can see things. I have a very graphic memory. If I see it, I'll remember it forever. So I created a system for people to be able to learn through writing and also with image that is going to give them step by step. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned the SOPs because I've started creating standard operating procedures for the different services that I provide in the wedding and events business. So just randomly, we offer full planning, partial planning, corporate planning, nonprofit planning, as well as design, wedding coordination. I mean, the list goes long. So for each of them, I started creating SOPs so that I can give it to you. And by following that SOP, if you have the skill, you can do the job.
Correct.
Very important. So yeah, we're working on building those because it's what stands between you and, I will say, your freedom.
Absolutely. Say it again.
That's what stands between you and your freedom, because the true being of an entrepreneur is for your business to run without you.
And that's a great intersect to talk about your public health, how public health works, shape the way that you build and lead your team.
That's a great question. So I have been a public health professional for, what are we in 2026? So 12 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been a public health professional for 12 years now. And to be completely honest with you, a lot of the skills that I learned in my public health career, I am applying in my business every single day. For example, applying for grants, applying for RFPs. I was doing that, and still am in some capacity in my public health career. Putting a budget together, doing a grant report, hiring folks. So all of those things I was doing in my public health career. And now they're like transferable skills, right? That I'm transferring into my business.
That is beautiful. I feel like for public health, you look at it, it's like you look at the source, like you analyze, like what is the root cause of the problem. You're not like reactive.
Right.
We
come before the reaction.
Exactly. And that's an important skill to have in a business because when everything's going right, that's when you slow down and look at what could possibly go wrong and what is working, what is not working in order for you to establish that plan. So you at the point where you are establishing a standard operating procedures, like elaborate more on even so for the transportation company, how did public health shape you for that transportation business?
Yeah. Before I get into that, I do want to talk about how my the event company was birthed from experiences as a public health professional.
How so?
So I'm not going to go into where I worked and all that, but I worked for an organization where I was putting together large scale events. And so through that process, I learned about vendor relationship, logistics, production management, production timeline, vendor management, and floor plans, and all these things that go into planning social and corporate events. So then from there, two of my friends were having babies that same year, and they're like, "Oh, you want to do our baby shower?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I used those skills from those large scale events that I was putting on in a corporate world into putting my friends' baby showers together. And then from there, I did so well. I got so many great feedback from their families, their friends, but also on the design level. I do want to emphasize, like, we do planning and design, which is a little bit different from decoration. And the feedback was just so great. Like, I took a theme and I ran with it in ways people hadn't seen before, right? And I was like, ooh.
That's business.
I know. I think I might be up to a little something. And that's how Voltaire Luxe Co was birthed.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I love to understand the origin story and why you started the business, because that's what ground you. Because that's when you had that. I don't know how to explain it unless you're an entrepreneur. There's that new energy, that feeling that you get, that excitement that starts to drive you. And then you always remember it in the days where you don't feel like everything is working.
And it's fun for me. Like, I love planning and designing weddings and events. Like, it's like a hobby turned business, and also serves as both sometimes. Because I truly, truly enjoy it, and it brings me so much joy. I don't know how people might take this, but that's why I was just having this conversation with one of my preferred photographers at a wedding 2 weeks ago. Like, I just said it like this, like, not all money is good money. So for example, because this is fun for me and this is joy for me, if a client is causing me stress and causing me trouble, I don't take it.
That's good.
I don't
That's
take
boundaries.
it. Yes, I have very clear boundaries, because if you're hiring me to produce your event, you have to trust me, right? Of course, with your input, and we work together, but there are some times where there's no trust, and it just makes it a very miserable experience for the both of us. And because this is joyful for me, it's a passion for me, I don't want to be miserable executing any event.
Well, listen, entrepreneurs, you need to have boundaries.
Yes.
I am still learning to work on having clear boundaries as we're expanding, I'm not as available as I used to be. And there's certain things I can no longer do. So I would like to go back to how public health shaped the transportation business.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that it shaped it so much, but definitely a lot of the things that I learned. So to get my contracts, I have to submit RFPs, right? And I learned how to do that in my public health career. I was submitting RFPs for different projects and grants that we wanted to apply for. And this is, recently, but I was having issues in my transportation business, and I don't want to go into it, but I was able to leverage some of the relationships that I had through my public health career to help solve the issues that I was having through my transportation company.
That's beautiful. Leverage between not only the businesses, but also the network of each business to help you solve the issue. So we are transitioning into the strategic foundation. And that is our last pillar. And this is at the point where your business is mature. This is not the point where you begin. You begin at the foundation. But throughout this conversation, we're just going to start with the fact and ask you the question. About 42% of businesses fail because there's no real market need for what they build. For a serial entrepreneur, the risk is not running out of ideas, as you mentioned. It is saying yes to the wrong ones without a decision framework. How do you decide when an idea becomes a business?
There has to be a need for it. There has to be a need. For my event business, people are getting married all the time.
That's true.
People are getting married all the time, and women from a young age, we've been thinking about our wedding and what we want and the colors and the flowers. That's not going to stop, right? And also corporate foundations, they're having galas, they're having fundraisers, right? That's not going to stop because there's a need for them and there's a need for them to raise money, right? So they are going to need folks to design and plan their events. And for the transportation business, we specifically focus on students who are homeless, as well as students who may have some behavioral issues. That's also homelessness, unfortunately, is not going to stop anytime soon. So there's a need for us. For both of my businesses, there's a need for them. So I think for entrepreneurs who are looking for, what business to start or what business to grow, I think you have to really niche down on what is the need. And is that need going to be there in 5 years, in 10 years, so forth and so on.
That's good. And when you understand those data, do you mean by you have done a market research, you have done a market analysis? Walk me through your process when you look at those data, because you're public health. That's okay. That's real as well.
Yeah, I didn't do one, to be honest, but that's a great idea. I should probably go back and do one. But I've used sort of like what I know, right, and what we see in society and the world that we're in to be able to identify at least the beginning and foundational need of my businesses.
That's good. So what Build Your Own does, when we talk to our clients, we tell them that you need to conduct a market research or market analysis because data speaks. Yes. You can come and tell like a very emotional story, but what moves wallets oftentimes is the data when you're about to apply for a grant. Yeah. You know, these are important things. And if they don't see the need in the market, you're not able to prove it with the data. You cannot prove why you need that money. So for people, I understand. For me, to be honest, when I started Build Your Own, I did not do market research because I just was good at it. And my spiritual mother was like, you should start this helping people more. And that's just how the business was birthed. But if I had to go back and understand what I know now, I would have just conducted that market research to know what is the need in the next 5 to 10 years, what has been like, or the previous 5 years, what has been the growth chart of that industry? What is the opportunity? And from that, you're really going to niche down your target audience. And I feel like understanding that data helps you strategize for that business to understand, okay, what is my niche? So even for example, for photography, it is such a broad field and people have different niches. And for entrepreneur, for someone like me, when I was doing market research for Create Your Own Studio, and I saw that there was a need for branding for entrepreneurs because people do not care as much for their brand. They just think that I have a business, like the business should speak for itself. Yeah.
So I want to say a few things about the comments. The first one is that we have to be real. A lot of entrepreneurs just start. A lot of entrepreneurs just start. But I do agree with you. If you could start doing that market research, it helps. But if you had just started, it's never too late. Right? It's never too late to go back and do that market research because it can help you refine your business. So you mentioned about the photography, and I think that's like a perfect example because I talk to my clients all the time. I work with photographers, right? Especially in the event industry. All the time I work with photographers. And for a wedding, I'm always telling my clients, a branding photographer, a headshot photographer, an event photographer, a lifestyle photographer is completely different from a wedding photographer.
Correct.
Because they'll tell me, oh, I can hire so-and-so. No, you can't. No, you can't. They're not a wedding photographer, right? If you're having a wedding, you need a wedding photographer because they understand the different shots that are necessary for a wedding, like your staple shots. They understand a timeline. They understand how to do a flat lay. There are a lot of specifics related to a wedding that a wedding photographer is aware of that a branding photographer or a headshot photographer may not know and understand. And then you miss out on those moments from your special day.
That is important.
Yeah.
Understanding your niche because you cannot just hire one person and then because they are just labeled as a photographer. It's really your niche. Yeah. So what has building across different industries taught you about strategies that staying in one lane never would have?
Well, I think one of the main thing is it's not one size fits all. It's not one size fits all. So the strategy for one business looks different from the strategy of another business. I think I mentioned this earlier, but I am going to talk about it again. Financial strategy. Having multiple businesses has really helped me to sort of like grow the businesses by using financial health, financial credit of one or the other business. And I think, as a portfolio careerist, that's so important because I'm not staying stagnant with my businesses.
Right.
I am growing because I'm using the financial strategy from one to help leverage another.
That's good.
Yeah,
and then also doing it the proper way, having the right loan documents from those businesses with interest, as we mentioned. Go back to the earlier side of the episode so you can really write down like what is needed in order for you to do it the right way, to loan money or implement those certain financial strategies for your business. So for the founders with multiple ideas and no structure and around any of them, what you think is going to be their first move?
There's a lot of first move that you can make, but I started talking about this on social media a couple years ago, but I am going to go back to that. You need to structure your business. A lot of people are just doing business and they don't have a structure. They don't have a foundational structure. They're using their personal bank accounts. They're using their personal credit. So if you are starting a business and you have set your mind on the business that you are going to execute, my number one advice is to structure your business, get an LLC or an S Corp, whatever it is that you think is best. Obviously, definitely get legal advice, and then do a business bank account. Very important, because again, down the line, when you're looking for funding, you want to have that business bank account. And in addition, we want to be professional, right? People want to do business with folks who are operating professionally. I know I do.
Right.
And having a business bank account makes you look more professional than someone who's asking you to Zelle using, their personal phone number.
Right. So this is where Build Your Own can help you. And we laid a structural foundation for business owners. If you feel that everything that we've talked about and you feel very overwhelmed, reach out to us, book a consultation with me, and then we'll take it from the first step and guide you on how you can properly structure your business. So Stephanie, what's next for you and how do we stay connected with you?
Sure. Great question. What's next? Right now, I'm in a very good space, in a good place with my businesses. So I'm just looking to grow. I'm looking to grow my event business as well as the transportation business. So that's what's next around the businesses. And then you can stay connected with me on my socials. My business social for my event business is at Voltaire Luxe Co. So that's at VoltaireLuxe.co on Instagram and Facebook. And our website is www.voltaireluxco.com. And then I recently started my lifestyle content creator journey. So you can follow me at Miss_Voltaire, and that's MISS_Voltaire, Voltaire, and that's where I'm sharing a little bit of my life and what I have going on.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And be sure to follow her on all of her social media platforms and stay connected if you want to know more about the transportation business and the event planning business, wedding, design, and everything that comes with it. So, Stephanie, thank you for what you have built and what you are currently building across the different industries. Evidence that this audience needs to see. The foundation is the work and is also their responsibility. You are approved to that. And I would like every single person from this episode, and once you're done watching, we always end with an actionable step. You're going to take notes this week. We've talked about different industries, and you're going to really assess what you have learned and take some practical notes and action step of what you need to do. And with that being said, thank you for coming to the Build Your Own podcast. It was a pleasure having you. Until then, see you next episodes.